Good evening, my dear connoisseurs of the macabre. Let me guide you through the shadowy corridors of the unexplainable and the chilling. Tonight, I have prepared for you a tale that is not for the faint of heart, a narrative drenched in the darkest ink of human depravity. Our story unfolds in a town that time itself seems to have forgotten, a place where whispers travel faster than the wind, and where secrets are as abundant as the cobwebs that cling to the forsaken corners of its history. It is here in Eldrich Falls that we find a house, a structure that looms as a silent sentinel over the town, harboring within its walls a secret so vile it has soured the very soil upon which it stands. This is the residence of Dr. Victor Harrow, a man whose name sends shivers down the spines of the townsfolk, a man whose medical genius is rivaled only by the rumors of the nightmarish tableau that unfolds beneath the creaking floorboards of his Victorian abode. So I invite you to steel your nerves and light your lanterns, for we are about to descend into the abyss of the human psyche. Prepare yourself for a journey into a place where the line between life and death is as thin as a surgeon's scalpel, and where the screams of the tormented echo in the silence of the night. Let us begin, if you dare, with Chapter 1 of this ghastly account, The Unsettling Discovery.
Chapter 1. The Unsettling Discovery. In the quaint town of Eldrich Falls, where the fog clung to the cobblestone streets like a shroud, there stood an old Victorian house that the townsfolk avoided. It belonged to Dr. Victor Harrow, a man whose brilliance was only surpassed by the disturbing rumors that surrounded him. I, Dr. Stephen Ross, was drawn to this place not by chance, but by the whispers of the wind that carried tales of horror and despair. The house was a relic of the past, its once majestic facade now marred by the passage of time. The townsfolk spoke of strange noises that emanated from the basement at night, of screams that were abruptly silenced, and of the doctor's patients who entered the house, never to be seen again. One fateful night, a piercing scream led me to Dr. Harrow's doorstep. With a heart steeled against fear, I entered the house. The interior was a labyrinth of shadows, each room filled with antiquated medical equipment and the pungent smell of chemicals. As I descended the creaking stairs to the basement, the air grew colder and the scent of death hung heavily around me. The basement was a charnel house, a macabre laboratory where the line between science and madness had been grotesquely blurred. Jars containing unidentifiable specimens lined the shelves, and in the center of the room stood an operating table stained with the evidence of unholy practices. It was there I found him, Dr. Victor Harrow, hunched over the lifeless body of his latest subject, his hands crimson with blood. His eyes, wild with the fervor of a man possessed, met mine, and in that gaze I saw the abyss staring back. Chapter 2. The Horrors Within. Dr. Harrow, sensing a kindred spirit in the macabre, eagerly shared the fruits of his labor. His voice, a symphony of madness, spoke of a quest to conquer death, to unlock the secrets of the human body. He showed me his creations, humans he had experimented on, twisted into grotesque parodies of life. Some were stitched together, limbs where limbs should not be. Others were kept alive by a tangle of tubes and machines, their eyes begging for the release of death. I realized then that Dr. Harrow had not merely crossed the line of ethical conduct, he had obliterated it. His subjects, once people with hopes and dreams, were now nothing more than testaments to his insanity. As I delved deeper into the horrors of the basement, I came across journals detailing the doctor's experiments. Each entry was more depraved than the last, a chronicle of a man's descent into the darkest corners of the human psyche. It was clear that Dr. Harrow's practices were not just terrifying, they were an affront to the very essence of humanity. Chapter 3. The Confrontation and Aftermath. There he stood, Dr. Harrow, in the center of the room, surrounded by his ghastly experiments. His hands, stained with the evidence of his sins, trembled with a mixture of excitement and fear. His eyes, once the windows to a soul of compassion, now reflected only the madness that had consumed him. "Dr. Ross," he greeted, his voice a hollow echo of the man he once was. "You have come to witness greatness." I steadied my voice, the weight of my purpose clear. "Dr. Harrow, your quest for greatness has led you down a path of evil. You have defiled the sanctity of life and played God in a realm where you have no dominion." He laughed, a sound devoid of joy. "Sanctity, dominion, these are but words, Dr. Ross. Words that hold no power here. I have transcended such archaic notions. I have seen the face of death and made it blink. The room seemed to close in around us as I took a step forward. You have done nothing but bring suffering and death. Your experiments end tonight. Our confrontation was a clash of ideals, a battle between the sanctity of life and the hubris of a man who believed he could control it. Harrow, with the desperation of the damned, lunged at me, a scalpel clutched in his hand, its blade glinting with malice. The struggle was violent, a dance with death as the orchestra of the damned played on. Instruments of torture and jars of preserving fluids bore silent witness to our struggle. In the end, it was Harrow who faltered, his own creation, a tangle of wires and life support, toppling onto him, pinning him to the cold, hard floor. As the authorities arrived, drawn by the cacophony of our confrontation, they were met with the grim reality of Harrow's madness. The basement was a crime scene, a testament to the atrocities committed in the name of science. The victims, those who could be saved, were liberated from their torment, their whispered thanks a haunting melody in the aftermath. The town of Eldrich Falls would heal in time, but the scars of what occurred in the depths of that Victorian house would remain. Dr. Harrow's legacy was one of a terror, a cautionary tale of the monster that can be born from the mind of a man who loses himself to his obsessions. As for me, I left Eldrich Falls with a heavy heart. The memories of that night a constant companion. The confrontation with Dr. Harrow served as a grim reminder of the darkness that dwells within the soul of man, a darkness that must be guarded against with vigilance. And so, our tale concludes, not with the triumph of good over evil, but with a somber reflection on the cost of such a victory. The true aftermath of our confrontation lies not in the physical realm, but in the haunting question that lingers in the silence. How many more Dr. Harrows are out there, toiling away in the shadows, driven by a terrifying ambition that knows no bounds?
As the echoes of our grim tale fade into the hush of night, we close the book on the harrowing saga of Dr. Victor Harrow. The once grand Victorian house now stands silent, a tomb to the memories of those who suffered within its cursed walls. The town of Eldrich Falls has found a semblance of peace, but the shadows cast by Harrow's deeds will long linger, like an indelible stain upon the collective soul of its inhabitants. We have journeyed together through the heart of darkness, witnessed the grotesque fruits born of a mind unhinged by its own genius and corrupted by a thirst for forbidden knowledge. The tale of Dr. Harrow is a stark reminder of the fragility of morality when ambition gnaws away at the restraints of ethical bounds. As your narrator, I have guided you through this grim narrative, not to shock or dismay, but to illuminate the depths to which humanity can sink when it loses sight of its guiding light. So, as we part ways, let us reflect on the lessons etched into the annals of Eldrich Falls. Let us remember that within the heart of man, there lies a delicate balance between creation and destruction, compassion and cruelty, life and the void that follows. Until we meet again, may your nights be peaceful, and may the horrors of the dark remain confined to the tales of Dr. Mortis Cadaver. Good night, dear listeners, and remember, the truest horror is that which lies within the human heart, waiting for its moment to emerge from the shadows.
If you enjoyed our extended audio storytelling, please give us a like and share. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get more of Dr. Mortis Cadaver's collections. Your support helps us continue to bring you the most chilling and thrilling tales from the depths of Dr. Mortis Cadaver's vault. Thank you for listening, and remember, the darkness is always waiting, just around the corner.